has extraordinary influence over these separatists. No one denies that. Now's the time for President Putin and Russia to pivot away from the strategy that they've been taking and get serious about trying to resolve hostilities within Ukraine.
Well, that was President Obama sending a stark message to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Stop supporting and arming pro-Russian rebels in Ukraine. This morning, those rebels shot down 2 Ukrainian fighter jets. And then we got new intel reports that Russia is increasing the flow of weapons into this region. Philip Carber is a former strategic advisor to Secretary of Defense Caspar Weinberger and a professor at Georgetown University, and he briefed lawmakers today after returning from Ukraine, where he conducted an extensive evaluation of their military in the situation. Also joining us, Congressman Duncan Hunter, who's a Marine combat veteran and a member of the Armed Services Committee. He's challenging the White House on what we knew ahead of last week's shoot-down of that passenger jet. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. And so, Philip, let me start with you, Professor, because they entrusted you with an extraordinary mission to go over there and try to figure out what was happening in Ukraine. Apparently, they were begging us for technology, including that would help counter these surface-to-air missiles, and we did not send it. Is that the essence of it?
Yeah, they've been asking, begging for help, basically their requests essentially have gotten lost in the file of our bureaucracy.
Could we have done it?
Probably not in time to save Flight 17, but the sooner you start, the sooner it gets there. And if we don't start now, then it won't be there by the fall. And Putin is very clear. Putin is going to continue supporting the rebels and continue bleeding Ukraine unless they actually get some serious help. So if you don't want this thing to just keep bleeding away with more tragedies, the Ukrainians have to be helped.
They're sitting there. Their airspace and those who fly in it are sitting there, flying there like ducks. I mean, Congressman Hunter, they don't have the defenses. And once again, if Vladimir Putin received the message, he didn't much care because 2 more jets were shot down today.
No, President Obama said that he has to pivot. Putin needs to get punched in the nose. I think that's about all he understands is actually force versus force, and that's not what we're doing. To say that the Russians need to pivot or do a ballerina move away from Ukraine is not exactly tough talk. The SA-11 is an old weapon. We have stuff that is not secret that we could have given them that jams this. And the fact that our Defense Intelligence Agency and our other intel communities didn't give a warning internationally to airplanes flying over that airspace, that means that the FAA and our intel community is not talking. That's a slightly scary thing. 14 years after 9/11, to have, or 13 years after, to have that happen, the FAA should have warned everybody and said, hey, they have it, or the Defense Intelligence Agency should have warned the FAA and said, hey, they have SA-11s that reach up to about 35,000 feet. Don't fly over here, you may get shot down. That never transpired either.
What about that, Professor Carber? Because you see the pictures of the actual victims who are on board this Malaysian Airlines flight, right, and it really brings it home. And it's not just about the Ukrainians and their internal battle. I mean, now we've got nearly 300 people who are dead from all over the globe because no one acted, no one led to try to foresee where this could go. Was this just not a priority for us?
Well, in fairness to the administration, there's a lot of crises going on that they're working on. But this conflict, the Ukrainians could win in probably 2 weeks if you gave them 300 sorties of tactical air with the right kind of jamming and surveillance. But the real problem that the Ukrainians have is they're flying blind. They don't have any strategic intelligence. They don't have any AWACS. At the very time we're retiring these mini AWACS and going to put them in the boneyard, if we just gave them to them, they would be able to see what's going on.
But isn't there an issue about us being worried that the Ukrainians may have, that their military may be infiltrated by Russians, and so we don't really want to share too much?
Sure. And I would be the first to say that. However, if we've had a system deployed for 20-some years, if we've given it to more than a dozen allies, including Middle Eastern countries, that level of technology loss is not significant. There's so much that we could do. Surveillance, and the other is communication. We actually gave the Ukrainians some really good communication equipment because they had served, 7 of their brigades served with us in the Middle East. So we gave one of those brigades our communication equipment. We gave them 8 sets. They need 800. And it works. It's an absolute game changer. You don't have to give. They have plenty of bullets. What they don't have is eyes, and they don't have the ability to communicate, because the Russians have essentially are able to read their communications.
Yeah, they're one step ahead. Congressman Hunter, let me ask you: do you think that the administration today saying, well, we don't think Russia was directly involved, and we think this was a mistake by these rebels, they didn't really mean to shoot down the commercial aircraft, and the unwillingness to actually help the Ukrainians in advance of this, is this all, as the president's critics have suggested, about, you know, somebody who just doesn't want to confront Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, this is the accidental president. It's all an accident. Nothing ever happens that he knew about or that he caused. I would agree with that, though. They probably didn't mean to shoot down an airplane full of civilians. That just makes the international community hate them more. It brings us into it. It brings NATO into it. The professor's right in this, but why do we keep saying us? Where is NATO in this? I mean,
These are some of the poor victims aboard.
Where are our allies when it comes to this? Hopefully this gets people more involved, because they need to be. The world needs to pay attention to all these hot spots, because if America's not leading, then nobody is in this case.
That's amazing when you hear that the Ukrainians were asking us for help, which we did not provide, that the Iraqis were asking us for help against ISIS, which we did not provide. And there are all sorts of arguments and reasons for that. But, you know, we are where we are today, with only 29% of Americans agreeing with our policies in the Middle East. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly.